Hello everyone, welcome back to the third part of our video tutorial on how to create a retro toy robot for UnitedPOP 3D Designer course. Um, the last two videos were a bit long. I'm going to try to uh, keep it short and sweet on this one. Um, Again, this is sort of new for me, so there's still a lot of kinks for me to work out in this sort of teaching format, but I'm doing the best I can. So please stick with me. So in the previous video, we basically did some detailing on the arm, we did some detailing on the leg, we gave him an eye and an antenna. We're just gonna continue where we left off, and I'm gonna be showing you guys how to make this all symmetrical pretty soon here. Um, but I want to start out by actually detailing his leg a little bit more, and also getting rid of these ugly hard edges, which is also something that we discussed in the previous video. So I'm just gonna show you again. Select everything and go to soften edge, and you'll see that now you have a nice soft edge on your box. Um, yeah, so let's start by giving the legs a couple of details. I might actually want to start out by giving him another inset on his butt so that we can sort of make the legs disappear a little bit into the body. But first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my multi-cut tool and create a cut exactly down the center, like so. And again, you do that by holding down Control and then clicking middle mouse button, and it'll create a loop, an edge loop exactly in the center of the loop that you have currently selected. So now what I want to do is want to I want to make another inset in here, but I also want to have like a little uh, border between them. So I basically want to create two square holes on the bottom of this guy's butt. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go over to my extrude face once again, um, but instead of keeping face together on, I'm going to do keep face together off. And now when I offset, you'll see that it'll treat every polygon separately, and it'll create a unique inset for each polygon. If I turn it back on, you'll see that that center sort of ridge disappears, but I don't want that. So I'm going to do this, and let's give them an offset of 10, and I'm going to hit G to repeat my, whoops, that's not what I wanted. Let's try again. Uh, offset 10, and then I'm gonna hit G to repeat my command, and I'm just gonna push it up a little bit, like so. So now that sort of gives the impression that they actually go up into his body a little bit, and yeah, I don't know, looks nice. So let's take a look at the leg itself. I was thinking of doing something a little bit more fancy with the foot. So what I actually want to do is I think I want to delete this, and I actually want to go ahead and extrude some faces here. We talked about the loop selection previously. Another useful way of doing the same thing is what is called loop range selection. So instead of double clicking or clicking one face and then next one and double clicking to select a loop, you can also select one face and then select another one that you want and double click, and you'll see that it just selects that range. And we can do that for these ones as well, like that. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold down Shift and I'm gonna extrude these faces like so. Yeah. Okay. And now let me see real quick. Actually, that would could be kind of fun. Yeah, let's keep it like this. Um, I'm just gonna create a new foot out of this hinge that we created. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna select these faces right here, and I'm gonna do the same thing. No, actually, let me just select the bottom ones right there, and I'm gonna drag them out like that. And that actually looks kind of fun. Just have a rounded off foot like that. Ah, why the hell not? Looks cool. Um, but let me see if I can actually take these ones with me as well. See how that looks. Oh, that actually looks better. Oops, that's not. You always got to watch out that you select just the things that you want to select, because sometimes you'll extrude something like I just did and you'll just forget that to look around, and you'll notice sometime later that you messed up something entirely different that you didn't want to mess up. So just be careful with stuff like that. The only thing that I'm seeing right now is that if I do that, I create this ugly edge right here. So let me just move this up a little bit like so. Yeah, that looks a lot better. It's kind of a strange foot, but I kind of like the way it looks. Sort of like a old-time industrial look or something like that. Okay, let's see what else we can do with this. I noticed that this edge is acting up a little bit. Mm. Oh, this is actually really good for an example. So this is something that will start happening as you start getting more proficient in modeling. You'll get to learn the tools, but the next thing you need to learn is to watch out for basically ugly geometry. So as you can see right here, actually let me demonstrate this real quick by connecting these two. Uh, and let me give it a hard edge. Hard edge. So as you can see, I don't know if it's, yeah, you can see it like this. So we have this edge right here. This edge is fine. It's part of this edge loop. As you can see, I can select the entire loop. It goes all the way around, and it falls in line. It does its thing, and it's fine. This edge, however, this edge isn't cooperating, and the way you can see that is actually by if you sort of turn your camera, you can see that where where this edge right here sort of falls in line and nicely conforms to the shape we've got going on right here. This edge is sort of crooked, right? So if we were to fix this, what we would have to do is sort of drag it over like this a little bit so that the face that we create right here isn't concave. So what I mean with concave is that sometimes you'll get that's why I drew the edge right here, because then it's very clearly visible that there's like it's a concave form, right? It dips down in the middle right here, but oftentimes you won't have that because it'll look like this, and so it's harder to spot. And this is something that whenever you export a 3D model, if you have a lot of this stuff going on, the software will just sort of fill it in the best way it sees fit, and it can actually mess up your geometry a lot because you might want to have an edge like that looks like this, uh, but the software might do this when it exports your model, or can't even do that. Never mind. Um, the software might do something like this, right? And I know this sounds very trivial with just a little patch over here, but you'll get to a point where you'll have a lot of these sorts of faces that are either concave or well, all of them are actually concave if you don't watch out. So you want to avoid that, and you want to make sure that all the edges follow the shape of your geometry and follow the edge loop and fall in line basically. So um, the way we can do that, there's really only one way to do that. I'm just going to Control Z a couple times. There we go. I'm going to select both of them because it happens on both sides. In this case, because it's just one little face, we're just going to drag it out a little bit until the angle of this edge sort of matches up the angle of this edge, like like that a little bit. And you can actually sometimes if you turn your camera, you can get a little bit more precise. There's also a tool for this, which sort of flattens faces, but it doesn't always work that well. Let me actually see real quick if I can find where that is, just for demonstration purposes. So I just wanted to check real quick if there was a better way of fixing this. And one way you could try is by going to the scale tool, and then in your modeling toolkit, you can change the axis that it scales over from world to component, and then you can sort of try to scale it in a way. But as you can see, it also messes up your geometry. So I wouldn't really advise uh, doing that too much because it doesn't really work that well. If I find a solution, you'll hear it. You'll hear it from me. Um, so yeah. Anyway, watch out for that. So where were we? I think what I want to do is I want to bevel this edge real quick as well. Um, this is something that's probably worth mentioning as well. One thing you want to watch out for when you start using a lot of bevels is that whenever you want to bevel something that you have beveled previously or edited in some sort of way, like I did with this foot, you want to make sure that you select all the edges in that bevel. So a bevel always creates an extra edge like this. And so if I were to say, now I want to bevel this edge, actually, let me show it right here because it's easier. If I were to simply select this edge and then do a bevel command, you'll see it doesn't really work that well because it tries to sort of push in an um, extra edge without taking into account the fact that it's already on another bevel. So always make sure that you select the entire edge loop. In this case, these two edges always also make are also part of that edge loop. So if we bevel them like this, we should get a better result, as you can see. I'm going to increase the segments and the fraction a little bit to create something like that. Let's do it like that. Um, and another thing to watch out for, maybe you already noticed, but as you can see, now we have 2 points here that actually, oh, it already merged them. Or did it? Did it merge them? It did. Okay, cool. Never mind. Usually when you do something like this, you have to watch out that you um, don't end up with two edges or two vertices in the same place. You could also end up with two edges in the same place. So you always want to make sure that you merge vertices that are very close to each other down. But I'll show you how to do that in a minute because I actually do that whenever I get finished with modeling some geometry, just to make sure that I don't have any verts that have the same coordinates. Because that can really give you trouble when you start unwrapping your model, which is not something that we're going to get to yet. We're going to get to that much later down the line, but it is important to keep in mind. So, yeah, just make sure that you don't start stacking vertices on top of each other. Okay, so it's a very it's a very funny looking foot, but I like it. And actually, I think what I want to do is I want to scale it up a little bit like this. And I might actually, yeah, sure, let's do that. So I'm gonna select all of these edges and go to my multi-cut. And now I'm gonna select the middle edge and bevel it. You can see that whenever I bevel an edge that isn't on a curve, that isn't like uh, part of a, what would you call it, the end of the geometry, when it's inside a surface, like over here, uh, it just creates an extra edge, which is really useful because sometimes you just need a little bit of extra geometry, and it's really easy to create some extra edges that way. And now what I want to do is I'm gonna select these faces until uh, this is a bit of an experiment. I don't know if this is gonna work. And I want to extrude them as well. And I want to give them a negative thickness. There we go. Perhaps not that negative. I'm actually going to scale this down a little bit so it fits better within my foot. And I'm going to do that by actually going over to the options and selecting object real quick. So I'm changing the uh, the local space for the scale tool from world to local. Again, by holding down R and going left mouse button and going from world to object. And I'm gonna narrow this down a little bit. So now it sort of looks like a little like he has a little hinge right here. Okay, and I can actually scale it down a little bit again because it doesn't need to be that wide. There we go. Okay. I don't know if it looks good, but it looks kind of funny. Let me actually push it up a little bit so he's standing on the ground and not inside the ground. Um, actually, why don't I try doing this first? So in this case, the foot is a bit too high for my taste, so I'm just going to select all these vertices right here, including these ones, actually. And I'm just going to move them up a little bit, like so. Yeah. Okay, so we're almost done with this foot. The last thing I want to do, first of all, let me actually smooth these edges real quick so they look a bit better. Soften edges. Apologies. Soften edge. Like that. Doesn't actually look that good, but oh wait, I get it because these are. So this is something you'll start doing as well as you start doing more of these different types of operations. You actually start just playing around with soften and harden edge to see what looks best in this case because I want the foot to look like a mechanical thing. Yeah, that looks better. I just needed to harden this edge. And that one is hard, which is fine. Okay. Yeah, so what I wanted to show you before we get done with this foot is optimizing your geometry. Especially when you're working with game models, you want to make sure that you make use of every single polygon as best you can. You don't really want to have too many polygons because that way you just slow down your game without actually gaining any detail. So for instance, we have this side face right here, and because we extruded it down, it has these extra polygons, right? But you don't actually see them because it's just a flat face. So we don't need them. So we're going to get rid of them. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to go to vertex selection and we're going to select them and we're going to go to the when we go to Shift right mouse button, we're going to go to Merge Vertices and then Target Weld Tool. And you'll see that your cursor changes. And what you can now do is you can sort of snap these vertices together like so, and it automatically welds them. So you don't have, like I said earlier on, you don't have duplicate or two vertices on the same location on the same coordinates, uh, laminate vertices, so to speak, like so. And we can actually merge these together as well because we don't need those either, like that. Now the other thing you want to keep in mind is that you don't want to create uh, you don't want to create n-gons, which are n-gons are polygons that have four or more uh, corners or vertices. So in this case, we have this one right here, which is kind of big, which has one, two, three, four, five vertices. So we're just going to fix that real quick with our multicut tool. And again, all of this mostly has to do with the fact that whenever you export a model and or whenever you try to import it into a game engine, sometimes it can cause a bit of trouble when you have n-gons or when you have laminate vertices or when you have uh, non-manifold geometry or any of the stuff that we talked about. So yeah, it looks kind of cool. I think I also want to give this guy another some more details. So I'm actually gonna select these two vertices and go to faces and then uh, extrude, give them an offset, and then press G and just do something like that. And actually, I'm gonna scale them down. That looks pretty cool. Cool. Okay, so in the beginning of this video, I told you I was going to show you how to do symmetry because as you can see, we've got an eye, we've got an antenna, we've got an arm, we've got legs, and we might want to sort of shift those over to the other side in in a symmetrical fashion without having to copy and turn everything. Because if I were to do this manually, what I would have to do is something like this, and then uh, delete all of the stuff on this side and copy all of it over to the other side, and it just takes too much time. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to select everything instead of the torso, the neck, and the head, and I'm going to go over to I have to search for it real quick. Shift right mouse button and then go to mirror, and now you can see uh, it just duplicates everything and it also mirrors it automatically. So that will save you a lot of time, especially when you're working with characters. And um, I might actually want to. Nah, actually, this is fine. So this is just a single operation. There's also a way of doing what they call a symmetry axis. So instead of doing a single operation, you get an axis on where you can um, make a symmetrical uh, do the exact same thing on two sides of one axis. So for instance, I could set up a symmetry axis along the z-axis, and if I were to edit something over here, it would automatically do it over there. But I have to look up how to do that real quick. This is just quick and dirty, and it gets the job done almost just as well. I am seeing that. No, actually, that's fine. Um, so yeah, we can sort of mess around with this as well. We can up top here, there's a cut geometry option, which is comes in useful whenever you're duplicating something that's not that's on the same model. Actually, I can show it real quick. So if I go to mirror this, even though it doesn't really have any features the mirror, you can see now it sort of creates a cut down the middle when I turn on cut geometry, which can be useful because sometimes that's what you want. You just want one half of something. So anyway, let me Control Z real quick. Uh, we can change the mirror axis. So if we were to want to mirror something in a different axis, we can always sort of change that. In this case, it does some strange stuff. I don't know what's going on over here. I guess that's the only thing of all the things that we've created that's worth changing axis when changing the mirror. Um, yeah, so you can do other stuff, flip UV, smoothing angle. We're not going to really go into that right now. But again, once you get more proficient with these sorts of tools, they'll start to make more sense automatically. And you'll start to play around with those settings. But for now, we're just going to mirror it as is. And now you can see, um, we all of a sudden pretty much have a character. I mean, we could start adding a lot more details. Um, but I think for now, this is everything you'll need to get started and start creating your own robot dude character. And yeah, just play around with everything that I've shown you so far with turning primitives into editable geometry and creating little insets and details like this, creating feet, creating antennas. Let your imagination go wild. Give him a TV on his belly or a jetpack or anything. Uh, you can pretty much do it all with the tools that I showed you thus far. So, um, again, this was my first time doing this. I kind of enjoyed doing it. I do think I'm going to do more of it in the future. I'm going to be editing and cutting up this video a little bit to make it sound a bit smoother, but I do realize that sometimes I may be talking a bit much, and I'm going to be working on that. So, yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed this so far, and feel free to ask any questions in the Discord, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.